Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today we're going to kind of look at something a little bit different and a little fascinating.
Okay.
So we took some of Trump's most eyebrow-raising comments.
All right.
The ones about like Greenland, Canada, the Panama Canal, and we asked an AI to kind of analyze those. And what's fascinating is that the AI gives him less than a 1% chance at actually acquiring Greenland.
Wow.
Virtually no chance at annexing Canada.
Right.
And like practically zero chance at reclaiming the Panama Canal.
Yeah. So why even bring these ideas up?
Oh, that's what we're going to try and look at today. So we're going to unpack,
Okay.
the strategy, the politics, maybe even like a little bit of psychology behind these like really bold pronouncements.
Yeah.
And as always, we want to hear your thoughts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
Absolutely.
So let's start with Greenland.
Okay.
Trump has been pretty vocal about Greenland's like strategic importance, highlighting its untapped resources, even calling it like a great real estate deal.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the AI, after analyzing a massive amount of data, concluded that acquiring Greenland is like incredibly improbable.
Really?
Like the outright rejection from both Denmark and Greenland,
Right.
the potential for international backlash and the legal hurdles are just too immense.
So knowing that, why would he even float this idea?
Well, the AI explored a few possibilities.
Okay.
One interesting angle is like the concept of distraction.
Okay.
So by focusing attention on these like grand global ambitions, he could potentially shift focus away from like domestic issues.
Right.
It might be more pressing at the time.
So almost like a smokescreen of sorts.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the idea of strategic posturing? I mean, with China and Russia increasingly active in the Arctic,
Right.
could these statements be a way of like sending a message that the U.S. is still a major player in the region?
Absolutely. I think it's a way of asserting dominance even if the actual acquisition is off the table. It's about reminding everyone that the U.S. has interests in the Arctic and is willing to defend those interests.
And let's not forget the symbolism here.
Right.
Greenland, with its vast untapped potential, kind of fits into this narrative of Trump as like a bold deal maker, expanding American influence and securing valuable resources for the nation.
Absolutely. It feeds into this image of strength and dominance that he's cultivated.
Okay, so we got distraction, we got strategic posturing, and a healthy dose of symbolism at play.
Yeah.
Now let's turn our attention to Canada.
All right.
You remember when Trump referred to Trudeau as the governor of Canada?
Yes.
And even hinted at bringing Canada into the fold?
Yeah, those remarks definitely raised eyebrows.
Yeah.
And again, the AI was very clear. The likelihood of annexing Canada is practically non-existent.
Right.
The legal and diplomatic obstacles would be insurmountable.
Yeah.
Not to mention the potential for like a massive rift between the two countries.
But even if it's not a realistic possibility, what do these statements reveal about like the underlying dynamics of the U.S. Canada relationship?
Well, one key factor is the issue of resources. Canada has vast natural resources that are vital to the U.S. economy, and Trump has often accused Canada of like unfair trade practices. So while annexation is a non-starter, these provocative statements could be a way of like applying pressure.
Okay.
Maybe gaining leverage in trade negotiations.
It's like a high-stakes poker game.
Yeah.
Using these outlandish statements as like bluffs or bargaining chips to try and get a better deal.
Exactly. It's about disrupting the status quo and seeing how the other side reacts, and then potentially using that reaction to your advantage.
Okay, so we got Greenland, we got Canada, and now let's dive into the Panama Canal.
Okay.
This one is really steeped in history, with Trump repeatedly criticizing the 1977 treaty that transferred control of the canal to Panama, calling it one of the worst deals ever made.
Yes. And his desire to fix what he sees as like a past mistake is a recurring theme in his rhetoric. He often talks about restoring America to a position of dominance.
Oh, great.
Reclaiming what was lost, putting America first.
But the AI once again throws cold water on this idea.
Right.
Panama's sovereignty over the canal is internationally recognized. And any attempt to challenge that would likely lead to major geopolitical conflict and alienate U.S. allies in Latin America.
Absolutely. And it's important to note that the Panama Canal holds like immense symbolic significance.
Okay.
It represents like a period of American engineering prowess and control over global trade routes. So for Trump, trying to reclaim it could be about more than just the canal itself.
Yeah.
It could be about, like, reasserting American power on the world stage.
Right.
Projecting an image of strength and dominance.
Right. It's about tapping into this narrative of American exceptionalism and restoring a sense of pride and power that he believes has been lost.
Yeah. And it's fascinating how all three of these examples, Greenland, Canada, and the Panama Canal, share some common threads.
Okay.
A desire for global dominance. Challenging the existing world order.
Okay.
Securing control over, like, key resources. And building a legacy that reflects his vision of American greatness.
It's like he's constantly testing the boundaries.
Yeah.
Pushing the limits of what's possible, whether through actual action or just through strategic rhetoric.
Yeah, and it's this unpredictability that makes him such a fascinating
Right.
and perhaps unsettling figure on the world stage.
Okay, so we've established that these are some pretty bold ideas and the odds of them actually happening are slim.
Yeah.
But let's dive a bit deeper into what are like the key barriers standing in Trump's way, aside from the obvious international pushback?
Okay, well, let's unpack those barriers a little bit.
Okay.
First and foremost, you have, like, the legal and diplomatic constraints, international law and treaties.
Right.
They aren't just suggestions. They exist for a reason. Any attempt to, like, circumvent them would carry some pretty massive consequences.
Right. You're talking about potential global condemnation.
Yeah.
And serious damage to relationships with key allies.
Huh.
It wouldn't just be about, like, upsetting a few countries.
Yeah.
It could undermine, like, the entire international order.
Exactly. Then you have the hurdle of congressional oversight.
Right.
Even if Trump were completely determined to pursue any of these actions,
Right.
he would need approval from Congress. And that's highly unlikely, considering the potential for, like, bipartisan opposition to such, like, drastic measures.
And of course, let's not forget the enormous military and economic costs involved.
Oh, absolutely.
Acquiring and maintaining control of Greenland.
Yeah.
Or annexing Canada.
Right.
These aren't simple real estate deals.
No.
We're talking like incredibly complex undertakings.
Right.
With enormous financial and logistical burdens.
Absolutely. And these actions could even carry domestic political risks. While these ideas might appeal to a segment of Trump's base, they could also alienate moderates and independents.
Right.
Who might see them as reckless and imperialistic.
It's a delicate balancing act he's playing with fire.
Yeah.
One wrong move, and the whole thing could backfire spectacularly.
Precisely so. While these declarations might grab headlines and generate buzz,
right.
The reality is they face a mountain of obstacles.
But even if these pronouncements are primarily symbolic,
yeah,
they still carry weight, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
They send a message to the world, to his supporters, and even to his rivals.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the core question.
Okay.
What is that message? What is he trying to achieve through this kind of rhetoric?
It's like a puzzle trying to decipher his motivations.
Right.
Is it a calculated strategy?
Yeah.
Is it pure impulse or a combination of both?
The AI analysis suggests it's likely a blend.
Okay.
Remember, Trump comes from, like, a business background,
right,
where deal-making and leverage are key. He might view these declarations as, like, opening gambits in a larger negotiation.
So even if he doesn't truly intend to annex Canada,
right,
the mere suggestion could create pressure.
Yeah.
Forcing Canada to make concessions on trade or other issues.
Exactly. It's about disrupting the status quo, shaking things up to see where the pieces fall. It's a high-risk, high-reward approach that's worked for him in the past, at least in, like, the business world.
But the stakes are much higher on the global stage, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Alienating allies,
yeah,
triggering international incidents.
Right.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. And that's where the potential for miscalculation comes in.
Okay.
What might work in a boardroom doesn't necessarily translate smoothly to the complex world of geopolitics.
It makes you wonder if he underestimates the potential consequences or overestimates his ability to control the fallout.
It's certainly a possibility. Let's also consider, like, the impact on domestic politics.
Okay.
These pronouncements play into a narrative that resonates with his base. A narrative of American strength.
Okay.
A rejection of globalism. And a willingness to challenge the establishment.
It's like he's tapping into this deep-seated desire for America to be seen as dominant.
Yeah.
A leader not beholden to international norms or agreements.
Precisely that message, that symbolism can be very powerful, even if the actions never materialize. It reinforces a certain worldview, a way of seeing America's place in the world.
But it also creates a sense of unpredictability, doesn't it?
Right.
If our allies and rivals can't be sure what he'll do, it becomes harder to build trust, negotiate, and maintain stability.
That's a key point. Unpredictability can be a strategic asset,
Right.
but it can also backfire, leading to misunderstandings, escalations, and unintended consequences.
So it's a tightrope walk.
Yeah.
He's testing the limits, pushing the boundaries, and the world is watching, trying to decipher his every move.
And that perhaps is like the most intriguing aspect of all of this. We're
Okay.
left with more questions than answers.
Right.
What is his endgame? Is there a grand strategy at play, or is this just like a series of impulsive actions?
And how will the world react? Not just in the short term, but in the long term.
Right.
Will these declarations fundamentally alter the global landscape, or will they fade away as just another chapter in the Trump saga?
These are the questions we're left pondering.
Right.
And it's a reminder that in geopolitics, perception often matters just as much as reality.
We've spent a lot of time talking about what he said and why he might have said it. But what about
Okay.
why should our listeners care? What's the relevance to their lives?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to get caught up in the headlines and think of these pronouncements as just political theater.
Yeah.
But the truth is, they have the potential to shape the world we live in, our world.
Precisely think about it.
Okay.
If Trump's rhetoric leads to increased tensions with Canada or other allies, it could have very real consequences for trade security, even our personal relationship with people from those countries. And it's not just about our immediate neighbors.
Right.
These kinds of actions can erode trust in the international order, leading to a more chaotic, unpredictable world.
Yeah.
Where conflict is more likely and cooperation becomes much more difficult.
That's a crucial point. We live in an interconnected world.
Right.
And what happens on the global stage has a ripple effect, impacting our economy's security environment.
Right.
Virtually every aspect of our lives.
So while these declarations might seem like abstract geopolitical maneuvering at first glance, they actually have the potential to touch each and every one of us.
It's a powerful reminder that we can't afford to ignore what's happening on the world stage.
Right.
Even if it seems distant from our daily lives. What happens over there inevitably impacts what happens right here at home.
It all boils down to this. We need to stay informed, engage in these conversations, and try to understand the forces that are shaping our world.
Agreed. We've explored the what, the why, and the so what of Trump's pronouncements.
Right.
We've delved into his potential motivations, the barriers to action, and the broader implications for global politics and our everyday lives.
But before we wrap up, there's one more question I think is worth pondering.
Okay.
If these declarations are primarily symbolic, what message is he truly sending, not just to the world, but to his supporters and his rivals?
That's the question we'll leave you with today.
Okay.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, and we encourage you to share your thoughts, interpretations, hopes, and even fears in the comments below.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about Trump.
Right.
It's about the kind of world we're building together. It's a world where the line between rhetoric and reality is becoming increasingly blurred, and the stakes have never been higher.
So as we navigate this complex and ever-changing world, let's commit to staying informed, engaged, and curious.
And on that note, thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. We'll see you next time.